Hi, I'm Joe Feeks, editor of Pig Health Today, and with me is Sarah Probst Miller. She is a veterinarian and president of AgCreate Solutions. Welcome, Sarah.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
It's good to meet you after all this time. I've seen many of your training videos, exceptionally well done.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, 7 years ago we started a new company, took a risk, and we're proud of our output.
Good. Well,
Yeah.
I think the industry is too. So I wanted to talk with you today, obviously, about training. I know that this is an area that you specialize in. And, I don't think anybody doubts the importance of training, but implementing it is a whole nother thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. At the end of the day, if we're going to positively impact pig health, we need to be able to positively impact people. And really, that's what the training is about. It's about how do we motivate people to behave differently and to express competencies that we want them to express on farm.
Now, you've heard the expression, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right.
That probably describes a lot of training programs because they'll say, well, I gave them something to read, I showed them the video, and then they walk away and, hey, how come they didn't do it right?
Right.
Where is the industry falling short?
We believe, and the science of how adults learn shows that when you give someone something to read, the express competency level is about 10%. When you talk to them on the phone, as I did many times as a veterinarian, I'm not trying to be judgmental, the express competency is only 20%. And if that person you talk to sees another person on the farm doing something a certain way, everything that we wrote, everything that we said just got trumped by what that other person saw, because peer influence is so huge on how people are going to behave. So we try to use the science of how adults learn in our favor so that we can measure the steps that are necessary to make a person willing to change.
How do you get people to change? That's a very difficult thing to do.
It is, it is. The science of how adults learn says a couple things. Number one, for an adult to even listen, we have to stimulate certain hormones and chemicals in the brain. And if that hormone or chemical isn't present, we can't even form new electrical connections from one part of the brain to the next. And so we know that we need to present the material in a way that relates to that individual, because as a teacher, you have an impact as to whether or not you stimulate that hormone in the brain. Any guess what that hormone is?
What?
Adrenaline. And it's a tricky hormone, because if you have adrenaline in at a certain level, that ideal sweet spot, and that person leans forward, they're interested, they're engaged. But as a species, if that hormone gets up high, we have three responses, or one of three responses. We either fight, we either run away, and we either freeze or play dead. And you see those behaviors in the classroom when you have folks in there. And so we work to hook the learner in, present the material in a way that answers the question of what's in this training for me. And then we work to follow a see it, do it, teach it principle. Because when you teach something, you can get up to a 95% level of competency expression. And that's really where we want people to be.
Now, this all makes a lot of sense to me, but how does this play in the field? I know that at the American Association of Swine Veterinarians meeting, you gave a presentation about a study that you did. Could you tell us about that?
So, Joe, one day I got a call from one of our Pork Avenue Training Portal customers, and he said, Dr. Sarah, we looked at your training program, and now we know whether or not it works. And I was nervous because, yeah, right. I had spent the last 7 years of my life working on this product, and I'm thinking, okay, how did it work? He said, well, we took your program and put it in on 100 employees, and we put the other 500 employees on our old training program. And I said, well, tell me about that old training program. What did you do? He says, well, in our old training program, we train according to phase of production. It's a 12-week program. The manager's in charge. They have a list of competencies that they have to teach, and they get to use their own sort of natural teaching style to get those things across.
So it was pretty thorough.
It was pretty thorough. Yeah. He said mostly the manager will read through the SOP, maybe do a few demonstrations, but there's some variance in how they approach based on their personality. And I said, well, and how did you implement the Pork Avenue training program? Did you use the videos? Did you use the simulations? Did you use the in-barn verifications? And he said, absolutely. We actually hired 2 people to be in charge of the in-barn verifications. So the see it part of our learning, the see it, do it, teach it. The see it is a short, engaging video that works to grab that learner's attention and show that learner how to do that task in a way that relates to them. And then after that video, they do the task for the first time in a safe environment, what we call a simulation. So we don't ask any true false. We don't ask any multiple choice. If they're giving a vaccine, it would be, drag and drop the syringe to the proper location on the pig to give the shot. So they're doing it for the first time in a safe environment, which is important because we know that feelings interfere with learning. So if the learner is worried or scared or angry, all those feelings interfere with the body's ability to create the natural hormones that need to be present for that new, very physical electrical connection to be formed in the brain, which is essential for people changing and being willing to apply what they're learning on farm. After that learner goes through that lesson, behind the scenes, the learning management software notifies their supervisor or their third-party certifier in this case that Joe's ready for his in-barn verification. And then they take the list of competencies that we want to see expressed from that training, they take them to the barn. And then we train that verifier to say things like, Joe, nice job going through this training. We want you to own this task, and we want you to really live this task on farm. And in this verification, could you please teach me how to do what you just learned? Just pretend I'm your student. And because we want that in-barn verification experience to be that learner's first opportunity to teach, because that's that 95% level of express competency. So they did that. They did that. And I said, okay, so tell me what was the results? Yeah. He said, well, our old training program had a 59% expression of competency.
And how would you rate that?
You'd hope for better, right? And they did a nice job measuring it. They hired a third party to come in, and they had picked 70 competencies that they wanted to see expressed on farm after all this training. And their old training program, 59% level. And I said, okay, well, how did Pork Avenue do? He said the Pork Avenue trained employees had an 85% expression of competency, which was a 26% improvement in their program.
Absolutely. And why is training so important to the success of an animal health program?
Without training, what we want to be done on farm isn't going to happen, because it takes people to make pork. And unless we can train and motivate people, we can't offer the best care to the pigs. We may have products that don't get in the right pig at the right time. We might have people that think they're doing the right thing for the pig, but it may not be what we want them to do. And so we have to respect the science of how adults learn to impact change.
Sarah, we've been talking about the importance of training, but I'd like to get a practical example. And one of the things that I've been talking or hearing from veterinarians at the meeting this week is they're all putting more emphasis on individual pig care.
Yes.
Because they've been backing off of the feed medications. They're still very important, but they're trying to put less emphasis on that, yet they still want to exercise good welfare, and so they're trying to train people to walk the pens, spot the sick pigs, and then intervene where they have to. Walk me through how that would work for individual pig care. How do you train somebody to do that?
Yeah, training individual pig care is an essential skill, and Zoetis has done a fantastic job with that program. They have their Walking the Pens training program that we had the honor of helping them do, and they have their individual pig care training program. It's about the basics of what the pig needs, the food, the air, the water, as being essential, but just as essential being that individual pig care. And one thing that is really unique about the program, and I think very valuable, is within the individual pig care, Zoetis in particular has helped the industry define in easy terms what an acute pig, a subacute, or a chronic pig is.
Yeah.
Because if they can find that pig early on in the disease process, then they're more likely to impact change. Those subacute pigs and chronic pigs, the B pigs and C pigs, are hard to get to respond to treatment. So finding them early is a hugely valuable skill.
And I imagine it's got to help with employee morale as well.
Oh, yeah, because when they're doing something, they're seeing a difference. So it becomes some good positive reinforcement. People care and they want to do a good job. And they can succeed better on treatments when they find them early.